You're listening to the Healing from CPTSD podcast. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what's called reactive abuse and the narcissist smear campaigns that happen afterward. If you haven't done so already, be sure to visit our website at healingfromcptsd.com and sign up on our email list for regular updates, as well as a free weekly newsletter. If you are looking to take your life back from the devastating effects of CPTSD and narcissistic abuse, the Healing from CPTSD course is now available. This course is one of the simplest yet most effective means to heal from CPTSD and get your life back. To learn more about the course or sign up on our email list, simply follow the links in the description below. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Healing from CPTSD. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. So in today's episode, I really wanted to talk about the topic of what they call reactive abuse, and frankly, the smear campaigns that come after those situations, generally speaking, right? Reactive abuse, I wasn't really familiar with that term for the longest time, and really I never heard it before, right? I was describing some of my experiences in a narcissistic support group, and someone said, "Oh, that's reactive abuse," and I was like, that's interesting. So I kind of looked that up, So that was only within the last couple years or so that I learned that. But what reactive abuse was really at the core of what I was struggling with a lot. I mean, there was a lot going on. There's a lot going on with narcissistic abuse in general, as you know. But for me, one of the key areas that was really troubling for me was the reactive abuse. And if you're not familiar with what it is, basically, it's when you react to the narcissist in some way, right? Like the narcissist is baiting you and pushing you and yelling at whatever they're doing, right? Could be outright bullying, could be trying to bait you into some kind of argument. It could be putting you down or just something like that. And then you finally snap, and maybe you say something back, or you say something rude, or you yell or something, And then they take that reaction, and they not only are they getting supply from the argument in general, but that's what they want. It's almost like their goal is what they're looking for is a reaction from you, so that they can get their supply from you and get even more supply when they go do their smear campaign with whoever their people are, their flying monkeys. So I hated those moments because there's many times where that happened to me, where like I snapped back at the narcissist over the years. And, first of all, I felt really bad because at the core, what's amazing is, I may have mentioned this somewhere before, but growing, like you don't know me personally, obviously, but I consider myself to be a good person, right? Like, and what I mean by that is at the core in my heart, like I have a heart, and I have compassion for other people, and I seek to do what's good and what's right in every situation in life. I like joy, I like happiness, I like laughter. And, if someone needs some help with something, I'm happy to help. I'm reasonable, like if someone wants to have a conversation about something, we can do that. That's me, like at the core. And, growing up, whenever I would meet, friends' moms or other, I always had a good time with, or I don't want to say a good time, but, like older ladies, like grandmothers and stuff, they just always loved me. It's like everyone loved me except my family. It was crazy. And all I wanted was their love, especially my mother's love, And it was always so shocking to me just because, like, the way she treated me was like not who I am, right? Like it's like she hated me, but she didn't know who I actually was. It was very weird. It's like I'm not here to cause any problems. I mean, it's like if you believed her smear campaigns or narratives that she would spin, I was like some terrible person or whatever, like a criminal. And the sad part is they do have those out there. There are like troubled kids and teens and people that get into gangs and stuff. I was so far from that. Like, it's shocking. It's shocking to the people who, and this is why, like, I wanted a relationship with my mother, but also other family members. And I was like, man, if they knew me, they would love me. I would have like a family, right? Like a family that actually liked me. and loved me and provided me with like support and stuff. Instead, I'm just like this outsider, but it's not my fault, right? So that was happening in general. Like, so I always felt, so when the reactive abuse would happen, as they call it, like I reacted to the narcissist, I felt so bad because I mean, I felt bad for many different reasons, but the first reason is because like that's not what I wanted to do. Like if I had to yell back or say something disrespectful or something like that, that wasn't who I was at my core. And to be honest with you, I always felt bad and ashamed and guilty for having to say something like that or do something to get the narcissist to stop their attacks and crazy behavior. And so that was like at the top. But then I'm hurt, I'm angry from the narcissistic abuse itself. And then there's the smear campaigns, right? It's like multiple layers of abuse, as we've discussed before. The smear campaigns are hurt, but I always remembered feeling, that was one of my core sort of like, I guess you could say, complaints in my life personally, was like constantly struggling with this sort of unfairness or injustice, like egregious injustice, in that, it's like the reactions did happen, but it's like I'm under attack here on a regular basis from this lady. And my reactions are, I mean, it's like they talk about gray rock, and, to me, it's like that can only go so far. I mean, I was fundamentally doing what gray rock is, even as a child, right? Where you just try to ignore the yelling or screaming or put downs or criticisms or interrogations or whatever chaos or mayhem is happening. You try to ignore it, be quiet, right? Like I was a respectful kid naturally. But this woman pushed me into a zone that I didn't want to go, and that just wasn't fundamentally me, right? So it's like I was like becoming the person I guess she thought that I was to begin with, and I hated that too. But the thing is like it's like dealing with a bully. Like I know I've mentioned this before, but like my thing is like, what am I supposed to do, right? Like what? I've actually had these moments with different people in my family where we get to this situation where one of the narcissists is going bananas and attacking me in some way, and it gets to the point where I'm just like, all right, like enough is enough. Like I've actually said that before, like enough is enough, like Jesus. Because the other thing is like, it's, when you're a kid, or, when one of these narcissists is like your parent or grandparent or like a senior, right? Like you're supposed to be respectful to your seniors. Well, I am, right? I observe those rules. You know what I mean? But when it's like these narcissists it's not just crossing lines, they're being really abusive. And there comes a point where it's like, I don't know about you, but I literally tried everything that you could possibly do in order to try to get away from the narcissist, or, get him, go in my room, or be quiet, or leave the house, or ignore them, or whatever. But the truth is like, it's, you're dealing with constant abuse. There comes a point where your brain just kind of like takes over. It's like, you got to stop this, like, like nut, right? Like from attacking you and yelling or whatever it is, maybe physical abuse or something, or just causing all kinds of like chaos, right? So I felt bad about it, but at the same time, it was like, what am I supposed to do, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what am I supposed to, what I actually asked them, and nobody had an answer because they didn't know what to do, right? Like the other family members that were there, it's like, look, I'm not trying to cause any problem. I'll tell you who's causing the problem here is this person here. I mean, 100%, right? Like, why are we all like, why am I the only one who seems to want to actually like go to the source of the problem and deal with it? Like, if you know what I'm saying? Like, you all think I'm the problem, but I'm not. And you all know it. You know what I mean? Like, you all know it. You're trying to pretend like you don't for some reason. That's weird too, because these people, like when you're dealing with a family dynamic, the enablers and the people that kind of like bury their head in the sand, I don't know what they're holding on to. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, they don't want to rock the peace or whatever, but there is no peace, right? Like, why, what are you fighting for? Like, I'm fighting to feel better. I'm fighting to be around people that don't abuse me, aren't abusive, horrible people that are constantly causing conflicts and are just constantly arguing and fighting and trying to draw people into into those fights, right? And so then, okay, so now let's fast forward to the smear campaigns, because the smear campaigns are going on no matter what, no matter if if you react to the narcissist in some way or not, they'll just make something up. But they like you to react because then they have something like a juicy nugget, right? It's like a cat who caught a rat or something and like brings it home to kind of like chew on it or whatever. They're like beasts. These narcissists are like monsters, beasts. Like. Man, I'm not overly religious or anything, but I remember some of those stories about Jesus where he was just like, all right, be gone with you beasts, or you're like the demons or something, because that's kind of what these narcissists remind me of. Like, all right, like I'd like to see Jesus deal with a narcissist, like I know it's all about forgiveness, but how would he'd probably just leave, like, I don't know, because what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like a Jedi mind trick or something to make him be quiet. I don't know. So the smear campaign is happening because you reacted, and I always remember thinking like, man, but I just wish these people knew the real story, because this is horrible. Like, I shouldn't have to be dealing with this. Like, no one should have to be going through something like this. This is unbelievable. This is an absolute nightmare, and it's like it's not fair. It's extremely painful. It's extremely insane. It's extremely damaging psychologically. It's extremely damaging emotionally. It's damaging relationally. It's damaging socially. It's just like, God, it's like those, have you ever seen that movie, The Lord of the Rings, or read the books where they have those black riders? That's kind of what they're like. It's like this, oh my God, they're like icy, cold, horrible, soulless black holes. Just picture if you've seen those riders, just picture them like narcissists riding around in black cloaks on horses and stuff, just causing trouble for everyone. You know what I mean? They're just angry, nasty, horrible beings. It's like, God, just relax. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't operate like them. So, but that's kind of what it's like. And so I would always feel bad about the reactive abuse, but then it got to and so then once I started learning about reactive abuse and reacting to the narcissist, and these different coaches and stuff on YouTube and different podcasts talking about just doing gray rock, right? And I don't know, you know what? I got to tell you, like, I'm not saying gray rock is bad. I'm not saying don't do gray rock, but I don't want to feel guilty for defending myself against actual attacks and abuse from somebody. And unfortunately, it was like an adult or my mother or my grandmother or something. But if you're under attack, like, you have every right to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even, and that's what I mean. Like, when I say, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to, like, what is the healthiest way to respond to abuse, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do? So that's why I became, I just had to become like a little bit of a gangster. Not in that I was doing bad stuff, but I had to sort of become somebody who could survive this stuff. And you get to a place, there's like right and wrong and good and bad and light and dark, but there are certain things you just kind of have to do based on your situation, just for pure survival means, right? Like, so it's like, yeah, did I yell at my narcissist on many times? Sure. Did I cuss and say nasty things back? Yeah, many times. But I was pushed, it's like after a while, like, I don't even know what else to say. That shouldn't have been happening anyway. And frankly, that's my position. So reactive abuse is when you're reacting to the narcissist and then they, go and do a smear campaign about it. But what's also unfair is that technically what happened is true, as far as your, if it's like, oh, he yelled at me, right? He cussed at me or something. And then they go and they turn all these people against you. And it's like, technically that did happen, but you're not telling the whole story, right? Like you're trying to take the victim role here, but you're the one who's stirring all this up. You're the one who's constantly, you know that there's an email service out there called Constant Contact. And I always see it, and it always reminds me of the narcissistic dynamic, because it's kind of like constant conflict, right? When you're dealing with a narcissist, it's like constant conflict or constant chaos. But constant conflict, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, so it's like, this is totally unfair. Like, this is unbelievable. It's like, it's bad enough that it's coming from one person, right? I got to deal with this nut. And then I feel terrible. And who's supposed to help me? Like, who's supposed to give me a hug and tell me everything's going to be okay, keep me safe, right? So now all these other family members are like all turned against me because of this story. And it's like, yeah, but you don't know the story. Like, you don't know, and they just believe it, right? That was probably one of my main struggles with this whole thing with narcissistic abuse and CPTSD was these situations, the reactive abuse situations, and always feeling bad about it, but also feeling angry about it because just simply would not, like, we never. And you got to understand something, like, if I'm yelling at somebody and I don't really yell at people, but I have, but the only times that actually happen, you got to understand, like, those are people that have gone way, way beyond like what's acceptable, and you know what I mean? Like, they get into that red zone of like just toxicity and abuse and stuff that's not okay anyway. And and that's the other thing. If you grow up like this, where these are you grow up with a bunch of people that are constantly yelling and screaming, and there's just nothing but conflict, and you don't know, like, you have no examples of what the right thing is as far as communication is concerned, or because even when you're trying to say the right stuff, when you're dealing with narcissists, a lot of times you're getting made fun of or put down or shut down or criticized or ridiculed, or I mean, really, it's all the time, So that was always one of the biggest things for me. I was, because I always felt like the smear campaigns wouldn't be happening if we hadn't had a reactive abuse situation in the first place. But the truth is, something would happen anyway. They make stuff up. I've seen them do it. I've caught them in lies, and they still lie about it. It's crazy. It's like you caught you. But they don't have the same. I guess they don't care, right? It's like, oh, I was caught. What are they gonna do? So I'm sure that if you've dealt with narcissistic abuse in your life, you've had to deal with. You've been in situations where your back was up against a wall, or you didn't, you know what I mean? You tried every other. I mean, honestly, to me, it's like actual fighting or war in real life, right? It's like, yeah, we're all for peace for the most part, but once somebody tries to invade your country and take over and start killing your people, I mean, you got every right to defend yourself, right? And to use aggressive means if needed. I've never been physically abusive in any way, but there's definitely been a lot of screaming matches, but I didn't want to do that. I was bred like that, like, so I don't know, like, the reactive abuse, the reactions, and in a lot of different places, people are like, well, be cool, or, like Zen stuff or Buddhist stuff, where they're just like, just try to not react. I hear you. Like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think these people had narcissistic personality disordered individuals in mind when they were saying don't react. Because you can only kind of do that for so long, right? Like, especially if you live with someone. And that's the worst part about it, is like, if you live with someone who's like this, again, this goes back to the question, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, even as a kid, it's like, you can't leave. Like, I could run away for a little bit, I guess, but what am I going to do? Like, I just have to sit here and take this? So honestly, my thoughts to myself after a while about the reactive abuse was, don't worry about it. Honestly, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the wild. It's like you're just living in the wild. Sometimes you have to get a little rough to survive, like, and that's what it is. I want to place the blame squarely where it belongs, and really, if we're practicing forgiveness here, I want to start with myself. So I would invite you to do the same if you've had similar situations where you reacted in some way, or you're like, man, I wish I didn't. You know how those people are like, you don't want to get mad and say something you don't mean. The truth is, I've been mad and said some hardcore stuff to my narcissists at different times, but I never regretted it at all. In fact, I wanted to say more, like, because it was real. Like, the anger was real and it was justified. It was genuine, right? Like, those are my actual feelings about things that actually happened. I mean, how are you supposed to feel? Like, how do you, you know what I mean? Like, how do you just bury all that anger and rage and shame and pain with some kind of fake version of love or forgiveness? You know what I'm saying? So, and then again, there's like, nobody's at school, no therapists were showing me, or really apparently anybody, how to have healthy emotional communication, or how to process and deal with your emotions in a healthy way. But even if even if you know how to do those things, dealing with a narcissist, that's why they say you just got to get out of there. You just got to go, get out of there, because there's really nothing else you can do. I mean, there is no winning with it's a no-win scenario, right? So if you've had reactive abuse, if you've reacted, don't feel bad about it. I know the smear campaigns are horrible, and they wouldn't, I know you probably, because I would beat myself up a lot over a lot of things that happened, but they happened because of the narcissist, right? So you might be doing something similar where you're like, obsessing in your mind about something you said or did, or and then it's like is it is it them or me game, right? Like you always end up going back to that, because it's like, I was yelling, but is that, I mean, the thing is like, look, if we had respectful, healthy people, like if there's a problem, we can solve it, or just, I mean, for me personally, like if you need something done, just ask me and I'll do it. Like as long as it's reasonable, right? So there's no need to yell and scream and cause all kinds of problems, right? Just talk like a human being, like just calm down, speak like a person, treat me with a modicum of basic human respect, and we'll get whatever you want to have happen, we can do. So I don't know. It's really weird having someone like me paired up with a narcissist, because I'm so calm, like and so I don't like being all riled up, and that's all they want to do is get you riled up. And so so then, because of because of my conditioning with the narcissist, unfortunately, like there have been cases where somebody else in my life like got me to, like they pissed me off or something happened, or they did something I didn't like. And my coping mechanism was to kind of like hold everything in and try to be polite as much as I could. And then after a while, I would like kind of blow, but I didn't know how else to function, like, because of growing up in that narcissistic household. And I always had this thought, like, well, if you hadn't pushed me to this far, we wouldn't be here right now. You know what I mean? And so that applies to the narcissist, but it doesn't apply to everybody. But man, I have, carrying around a lot of anger and learning those unhealthy skills of communication, of reacting and snapping or yelling or whatever. That's unfortunately, when you grow up in an extreme abusive environment, you gotta you gotta recondition yourself, because you've been conditioned hardcore, right? Like your brain's wiring has been conditioned that way. So, I've lost a lot of friends and acquaintances, but I'm the type of person that really didn't. I'm not a big people person. It's almost like I've worked on my anger a lot, but there was a period of time where I was so unbelievably angry. Everything. It was just like I just felt consumed by fire. Like I just kind of hated everyone, because there's just so much abuse and so much rejection and toxicity and bullying and all kinds of garbage that I've had to deal with people and it's all fallout basically from the narcissistic abuse. So, anger, anger, I'd almost rather like yell at someone and have them get away from me because they don't like me, and then I get some peace and quiet. You know what I'm saying? But, I've worked on that over the years, and, but the other thing is, you got to understand something that, any relationship is a two-way street, right? So, yeah, like you could learn better communication skills or healthier ways of dealing with conflict. But at the same time, if you're dealing with someone as toxic as a narcissist, you shouldn't even be dealing with them anyway. You know what I mean? Like, in any situation, there's always two people or at least two people involved. You know what I mean? So you take responsibility for yourself. That's great. But also strive not to subject yourself to toxic people or a healthy, rational person, by the way, a respectful person. You're never even going to get into those really toxic, explosive zones of fighting and yelling and screaming and stuff. It's just not going to happen when you're dealing with a healthy person, because they don't want to go there. They don't want that kind of conflict. And again, like healthy, rational people are capable. And this was a shock to me to find out after a while. Like, there are plenty of people that are capable of having a calm, rational, respectful conversation, even about, tough stuff, right? Like relationship stuff or, hard talks or something. There's healthy, respectful ways to do this. So if you're dealing with a narcissist or anyone who's who's abusive or pushing you to that edge, yeah, like maybe you could have said something better, but at the same time, they're still going to be abusive to you, right? Like you still got to get away from them. You know what I mean? So if you've ever had situations with reactive abuse, and if you've dealt with a narcissist, I find it hard to believe that you haven't. Don't worry about it. Like just give yourself like a break. If anyone needs a break, it's you, right? Like if anyone needs forgiveness and understanding and compassion and a fresh start and just a hug and just don't worry about any of this crap that happened in the past, it's you, right? I actually one time my I was having this conversation with my sister at some point, and we were talking about the narcissist. And what's odd is my sister's the type where she's like, she wants to have compassion for the narcissist, but she hates me. It's very bizarre. It's like I'm the one under attack here. So if you should have compassion for anyone, it should be me, right? I mean, am I losing my mind here? Like it's crazy. So, that's just, that's just another part of dealing with a toxic, my God, how horrible, man. Like what kind of world is this? You know what I mean? That is so horrible. Like all I want to be is a regular person having a enjoyable life. Like I know there's always problems or something, but man, this is unbelievable. It is like war. It's like you're in a war. You're in a Cold War or something. It's like you're having to dodge attacks and hide, and you don't know who to trust. This is the lives that we lead, who've dealt with narcissistic abuse and who have CPTSD. This is how we've lived in some way, shape, or form. And this is how our brain has been conditioned. It's like you don't know who to trust, and in your life, your experience, you can't trust anybody. What are you gonna do? Like who can you trust? Honestly, like, you know what I mean? You just got to find the safe, healthy people, and you can do it. So that's just kind of, I wanted to talk a little bit about the topic of reactive abuse and the smear campaigns that come along with it, because I always felt really bad. I was like, man, these smear campaigns are terrible. It's crazy because I'd go like from one, there was a period of time when I was growing up where I'd like go from my house to like some other family member's house or something, and I'd walk in the door and my narcissistic mother would be on the phone with them. I'd walk in like mid smear campaign at the other side, and then I'd start getting crap from that person, right? And it's like, man, can I just get some peace? Like, like, Jesus, what is the matter with you people? I've never slapped these people, but I'd certainly wanted to. I'd certainly love to. Like if God was like, would you like to give him a few slaps or some whacks? Just, I'd be like, sure, let me, kind of like a piñata or something. You know what I mean? I never have, I never would, but, God, man, that same desire, that anger from all that, when you're being sort of like emotionally just dominated and abused, and it's almost like emotional rape, right? Like just over and over and over, you're going to be angry, right? So if I were you, I would forgive yourself for any reactive abuse. Don't worry about this. Don't even be around people that are going to partake in smear campaigns, right? Like what kind of people are those, right? The flying monkeys and those people that just believe stuff without doing their own due diligence, or at the very least talking to the other party to see what their side is, right? So, it's just a bunch of people that want gossip and drama, and it's just a toxic environment. At the end of the day, it's just toxic. It's horrible. You feel bad. Nobody's happy. So I want happiness and healing, and to be around people who I can actually have a healthy conversation with, like a civilized human being, without having to yell and scream or whatever, So that's probably pretty much it for today. By the way, so just on touching on a couple more things before we wrap it up here. The course is launched. It's available. The initial price for the course went up, but there's like a 3-month payment plan to make it more accessible if you're interested in that. I'm also going to be rolling out a membership program where you can kind of be part of like a group, not just a group of people who have CPTSD, but a group of people who are actually committed to healing and growing. It's kind of like a support system and a mastermind group. for just kind of like building like a somewhat of a family dynamic of people that understand one another and can kind of be there, and to work on communication skills, do different kind of exercises if you'd like to for like sharing and being vulnerable, and practicing healthy communication skills with other healthy people. And doing like webinars and groups and stuff like that. We'll be rolling that out, and I'll also be rolling out some individual coaching sessions. So again, I'm not a therapist, but if you want to if you're interested in strategizing for something in your life, like putting some goals together, or coping with whatever's going on in your life, or even just talking, like they call it co-counseling, where it's kind of like someone just holds the space for you and just kind of listens with no judgment to whatever you have going on that you just kind of want to talk about, or even practicing assertiveness and effective communication skills with me. So that'll all be rolling out, and it's all designed for continued support, whether you've gone through the course or not. The course will definitely be a big help if you go through it before you join the membership program. But if you want to get some help and healing for like a much lower price, we can do that, and just for support and specifically for growth and reconditioning ourselves. So that'll be rolling out pretty soon. I'm really happy about that, because at the end of the day, like I'm one of the people that's like, let's just work on healing and growing and getting over this so we can feel better and honestly create lives that we actually want to create, like create lives that bring us joy and happiness, and that we're not constantly like looking over our shoulder, or walking around on eggshells or landmines to see when the next major crisis is going to drop that we have to deal with, or something, or who we can trust. We can create these things for each other. So it's a good opportunity to be able to connect. And again, I'm in love with the internet, man, like especially being a CPTSD person, because we can connect, and we can still have like interactions, but not necessarily have to go do some big huge event or something with a bunch of people if you don't want. So anyway, that'll all be available if you're interested pretty soon. I'll keep you up to date on that. Also, because I'm finished with the course now, the YouTube channel is going to ramp up a bit. So I'll be doing sort of like more videos, but also kind of fleshing out like narcissistic abuse, CPTSD, what you can do, strategies, in a more condensed, focused way. The podcast is just for, honestly, just kind of like having a conversation. Oh, by the way, if I had someone mention to me that, maybe they'd like to, come on the collaborate or something. And it made me realize, like, if you are, if you'd like to share your story or just talk about this stuff, you can come on the podcast. You just, email me, Justin at healingfromcptsd.com, and you can do that if you're interested. The door's open. So I guess that's pretty much it for today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.